It's time for a clash we've all been waiting for. First, the most dominant team we've ever seen, three-time world champions, led by the unkillable Demon King, T1! But New York, there's another king in town. One of the most iconic teams in the game, the reigning League of Legends world champions, Edward Gaming! New York, I want to hear you roar for T1 versus EDG!
Yeah, I mean, crazy just how many times it feels like these guys are fated to end up in the same group at pretty much every international they go to together. But I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on that top side that you just talked about, seeing if Flandre can keep up with Zeus. Because, I mean, Flandre's a guy who was a carry player once before, but has had to lean a lot more on things like the Gragas Sonar these days.
And can Gumyushi and Keria keep up with Viper and Mako is another question. We've seen Gumyushi struggling a little bit throughout the summer season, ever since the meta changes towards bot. First it was the Aphelios Jinx, looked really good. Now they've gone to more of like a hyper carry enchant meta, and now we've moved to a facilitating AD carry meta, where I think Gumyushi will feel a bit more comfortable.
I think that certainly could be the case, especially when we're seeing Aphelios do so well across the tournament thus far. So it feels like we potentially are going to start to see T1's bot lane coming back into the form we knew them for versus EDG. And you heard it from Isaac already on the analyst desk. Best 2v2 bot lane in the world. These guys are terrifying.
I think this meta shift helps T1. I mean, more carries top, more facilitators bot. I think that's their bread and butter, whereas Viper, Mako, are the Lucian Namis, you know, probably one of the best Lucians in the world next to Ruler, right? So a little bit less more agency. Definitely something I'm not Viper will easily be able to pull off, right? It just hinders the amount of plays that they can make on the map together.
And that's why I'm really curious to see how this draft goes, because these teams have a lot of shared champions. Things like the Azir being both Scout and Faker's most played. The Aphelios, you just hit on it for Gumyushi. That was Viper's second most played after Zeri in the regular season. So I think both teams already trading some interesting fans. Faker, I mean, a legend on the LeBlanc, not wanting to go toe-to-toe with Scouts.
Definitely not. We're seeing a lot of meta bans coming out here. Caitlyn, Maokai, Aatrox is the next one. Yuumi is a champ that we're wondering is it worth first picking, right? Sejuani is another one. It's a really strong jungler, can also be flexed top. We saw it as well. There's the Sejuani ban. Ornn was another ban on blue side that we saw last game as well from JDG. Maybe so much of a targeted ban, but Flandre, a couple of own games under his belt.
Yeah, and I actually feel like the Aatrox prio rises significantly here for the side of T1, because, again, Flandre, not one of these players who really leans into the Fiora. Played a bit of Jax, but not something we're seeing all too much. So, to me, that's what it looks like T1's angling for.
Seeing what the option is going to be here on the final ban, and it will be the Aatrox. You highlighted it. EGG saw it coming. The prio is there. But what now is the response for T1? Pick the litter on available AD carries. What are they going to go towards?
Is it a Zir first pick, I wonder? Both these mid laners just love this champion so much. No, it's going to be the Yuumi first pick for T1. I wonder what AD carry they'll pair that up with. We'll have to wait and see on the 2-3.
Like you're saying, though, for me, the Azir's still standing out just for the fact of that LeBlanc ban being so prominent. We saw it doing quite well in play, and it seems like DFM really leaning on it to find some wins against unexpected teams.
We talked about Lucian Nami pulling out a little bit of the meta since the nerfs, but Kalista's another champ that can fill that void if Viper wants to lock that in. Agency is the name of the game. And they're going to have a lot of proactivity on the bot side of the map.
And the thing that excites me, believe it or not, is not the Viper Kalista. It is what it will enable for Mako. What aggressive support pick we can see come out from him, because he is one of the greatest playmakers in the game, especially when he gets his hands on any kind of hard CC.
He's got a plethora of options. We could see Nautilus on 3. We could even drop it to 4-5. Renata can work too if he wants to play a bit more of the ranged matchup. Now it's going to be a Sivir Yuumi here for T1. Could slam a Kalista Alistar here if EDG are feeling it in terms of finding those all-ins. Of course, Sivir really weak against the Alistar, but that's Faker There's Akali locked in up against Scout.
Yeah, and again, really interesting when the desk was hitting on it, you were hitting on it. Things like Sivir Yumi coming in when this could have been a favorable meta for T1, but at least Faker wanting to show a carry performance against his old understudy. Now looking at what EDG go on 3, they could just go towards support and match, like you said as well. But if they want a favorable jungle option, but no, bringing back the Renata.
Yeah, I think Renata is such a powerful pick alongside the Kalista. We could also see something like a Jarvan here on 4 for JJ. Hasn't played it that much throughout the regular season, but it's really good in things like the Sivir. We'll see what happens in this 4-5 bands where we've got a situation where mid and bot are picked for both sides. It's just jungle top, really. T1 have the blinds, and they want to deny the strongest jungler from EDG, whereas EDG can take away those blinds, things like the cannon.
Makes a ton of sense, and of course, EDG are going to have the luxury of the final pick here. Would not be surprised at all to see that save for Zeus at this point. Not really a lot of reason to counterpick jungle in the current meta, although it could still happen. Faker on the Akali, though, pretty exciting to watch, of course, especially when there's a Yumi potential as we move into the mid to late game. Another bruiser that the Yumi could mount onto. Feels like it would be very strong for the side of T1.
I'm actually kind of curious what you think, Casual, about things like the Hecarim, right? Because in playing such a high prio, you have Sivir Yumi, but it feels like today in groups, we're barely seeing it at all.
Yeah, I wonder if people just don't like the way farming junglers work if they're not kind of self-sufficient like a Graves, right?
Yeah.
Where he can actually skirmish alone, whereas Hecarim needs things around him to kind of draft around the champ itself, right? When you look at EDG, my read is Junjia was just the early game jungler. Pick him Poppy, pick him Trundle, he'll get you an early game read, whereas JJ's more of like the Wukong, the Viego, the more of like the team fight orientated jungler. But the one jungler that stands out is Vi, I feel like, for JJ. He has an incredible win rate on it. I wonder if that's something he wants to pick up here, but there's the Jarvan ban up against the Sivir. You want to take that away and deny the engage onto Sivir. Vi is the follow-up after that, and it's going to get locked in.
Excellent read, Cage. Obviously solid early game ganks as well. See what they can do and what the response is realistically going to be here from the side of T1. We have to debate here. Final round of picks. We'll need to blind pick their top laner as well.
We have seen a lot of teams leaning towards things like the Fiora and, you know, champions like Gnar fall out of priority, but that was definitely something that Zeus leaned heavily on in the regular season.
You might have just hit the nail on the head. It's going to be a Zeus blind pick Fiora. We'll see what Flandre's got in his back pocket to deal with that. He's played a plethora of range champs, can also play things like the Jax or a tank if needed. But Zeus coming out confident in this first game of Worlds for him. Now it's on Owner, what he wants to pick. We've seen a little bit of Viego today. A lot of junglers have been pinched. Wukong's kind of falling in and out. Lee Sin could be the pick, but it's a bit dangerous to go for Lee Sin because you're playing really heavy single target damage, lacking engage. Viego doesn't really fill that hole either very well, but at least you get resets. But Owner's going to go for it. Lacking engage, a lot of single target, but he's confident that he'll pull it off.
Confidence in his own ability, confidence in his ability to land the kicks here. The hover over is coming through. What is the option going to be? How are they going to deal with the problem with Zeus on the top side of the map? It feels like something that is so hard to handle. Are we going to see a tanky option? We've seen this matchup a few times today. The Ornn could come through. A lot of team fight power on the side of EGG. Hard to weather the storm, yes, but if you make it to mid to late game, we saw exactly how strong this pick can be.
It's a no-brainer. Look at EGG's comp. It's really well-rounded. Really good scaling, good engage, good team fight, fantastic early game through bot. I think EGG's comp is well-rounded, better than T1's, I would say, but T1's has skill expression. It has mobility. Fiora, Lee Sin, Akali, if you can make these individual outplays in team fights, you will take over the game. It's on EDG to shut this top side of T1 down.
Yeah, and I mean, even just things like marking flanks in team fights is going to be so crucial for EDG, wanting that front to back. And again, for the side of T1, I think things looking pretty solid, especially Owner on the Lee Sin is something I'm absolutely terrified of seeing.
Playmaking is the name of the game for T1. Side lanes is the name of the game for T1. You touch on it, flanks as well. These are the things that EDG need to think about when they approach Dragon Pits. There's going to be a flank from Lee Sin. Faker is going to look for the flank as well. Zeus is going to be hitting your tower, so you're going to be under pressure. If they can keep calm, their front to back is stronger. It's just on T1. How much can you work with? How much can you perform with? How much can you pull off with this draft?
And we've seen how hard it can be if you don't get ahead on compositions that scale, or against a composition that scales so well like EDG's, how the game can fall apart so quickly for you. But there is a Yumi on the opposite side. There's a Fiora. There's an Akali to mount up onto. If T1 get an advantage, this game is going to feel so incredibly impossible for EDG.
I feel like drafts have like a skeleton that kind of check them out. Early game that can bridge you to the mid game that can get you to the late game and engage, right? These are the 3 or 4 things that you think about in a draft to make it well-rounded. The Kalista will get them through the early game, the Azir will get them to the mid game, and the Ornn will help them through the late game in terms of engage and the itemization, right? To just catch up on gold leads if they're behind. So T1 needs to focus really heavily on this top side. The Yumi can facilitate that, but I feel like EDG are going to play for these bot dives.
Yeah, and it's just been stock and standard EDG, how they played all split. It's how they took down RNG Again, MSI champions twice in a row. They're gonna have to do it here once again.
Ho, ho, ho. This is it. T1 versus EDG. Stock standard level 1, wards in bot brushes, ranged matchup here, so you want to make sure you don't get any kind of cheese level 1. You want to make sure you can maintain that bot push.
My eyes especially are actually going to be on Owner because, right, we've been talking about T1 wanting this playmaking. A lot of this, in my mind, going to come online once we get closer to things like the level 6 mark, where Faker does have a lot more pressure. Zeus, we know as well, going to get pushed in the first few levels against Flandre. So a lot's going to be on Owner to see if he can find any opportunities or at least prevent EDG from making any early plays towards bot, because you know that's what they want to do with Viper and Kalista.
And I think the small kind of disadvantage T1 have in this early game is Akali won't really get the mid push. So when you're looking at these dives, there's no real way to contest it unless Owner can just kind of shadow them or Faker can threaten the TP down there. Scouts will push Faker in the early stages. Level 6 is where this comp comes alive in the mid jungle for T1. This is where they will start to have the kill pressure.
Yeah, and it's obviously a death sentence fall behind in the early game against a champion like Vi. Getting that ultimate online against a champion like Akali, limiting her ability to outmaneuver, get around some of these abilities. That said, looking on the top side, Zeus opting for the Ghost here, can chase Flandre down in a long side lane. If we have a game similar to what we saw previously where a tower goes down early, it's not going to be quite as easy for Flandre to just sit in lane and weather the storm.
Early trading in bot, that second brush helping them out to gap close onto Gumayushi. And Owner is pathing down towards that bot side, JJ similarly. So T1 not looking for options top, they're looking to defend their bot lane in the early stages, and then I expect them to start playing through mid and shutting down Scout. Faker will start to walk up, and of course the sustain the Akali has makes it so pushing her out of lane is quite difficult. Scout can get the push whenever he wants if he just puts 3 soldiers down and starts hitting the wave, but Faker will just have to micromanage the way Scout plays this lane, try to stay as healthy as possible, and look for a good TP back on a good item base. Zeus now stacking some top waves, or really hard to trade level 1 with the Fiora because of the vitals.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what ends up happening, especially like we were saying with Owner, because now EDG can be able to get this wave into turret, so could potentially set up for a bit of a bounce and bring Jijit down to find this kill. But Owner, I mean, shadowing like we said, right? Because I feel like that was a big part of what we need him to do for T1 to get to the point in the game where they're hitting that power spike.
And while, of course, they probably could have predicted that Owner would be pathing down to the bottom side, spotting him out there with the Sentinel from the Kalista does certainly help. JJ now moving down as well. See if this is going to be a point of action on the map. If both junglers are going to stick around for now. Viper and Mako, no surprise, keeping the pressure up. Luma really going to struggle, and historically, Kalista feels so good in the Sivir, because when you push Spell Shield as the Sivir, there's no right answer. Yeah. You're always just going to get eat 'em. It's a difficult one.
Or an ult, whatever it may be, something's going to hit you no matter what, right? So Faker getting a little bit chunked out here, Scout having that push, and when it comes to setting up these bot dives, it's very easy to say on paper, just dive bots, right?
Yeah.
But it requires a lot of setup. Viper needs to stack these waves into Gumayushi, make sure he can't step up to clear them, and thin the wave before it pressures, and then JJ needs to be around, and Owner needs to be marked to make sure that it's on a 3v3 dive. So we'll start to see JJ move down towards this bot side. We expect after this bot side crapper, look for a little bit of information as to where Owner is, who's actually just gone for a full clear. He will hit level 4. JJ is quite close to it. They will meet each other, and JJ will lose that 1v1. So playing a bit careful, playing on information, and T1 will spot out EDG's jungler.
You can see advantage for Owner, but is going to be forced to stick around here. Well, this wave is set to crash into the tower. EDG not going to fish for the dive, but just going to keep the pressure up here. As Flandre just he's on survival duty. You know, he's just gonna get bullied around. Oh my Zeus, that's clean.
He just riposted the kind of like knock-up that the Oran Q does for a frame of a second to stun Flandre. So good mechanical play there by Zeus. And the more that this lane is in isolation, the better it is for him, right? If it's all about the Owner covering bot and JJ threatening it, the Fiora will just find an advantage on her own. TP's coming back here from Scout and Flandre.
And interesting, we're already seeing double Grievous Wounds item coming in for Scout and JJ both. Of course, important to note that with the Doran's shield healing, with pots, with Second Wind coming in, and the Resolve tree, you're going to mitigate a lot more healing than you might initially expect. It does help you keep up lane pressure and lane advantage.
Even base health regeneration, right? It just stops a lot of that innate healing. Scout's feeling confident with Faker walking up there. Going to use the E aggressively, of course. Can use this dash aggressively when you're close to your tower because you're always going to be safe. When you have the push, a little bit more risky, but not much action here. EDG looks for that bot dive. They fished for it. They looked for Owner. He was there. They can't pull it off. And Zeus still has TP here, just looking for plates, ignoring the Ornn, just taking Demolish into the Ornn because Zeus knows that even if he gets the half HP here, he's TPing back anyway, right? So not in any threat.
And I think the thing is, so often when we think about dominating topside matches, we think about solo kills, these big explosive moments, but this is Zeus just dominating without needing to get that solo kill, getting that tower, having this massive CS lead already. He's going to be a massive problem in early skirmishes around the top side. Herald is going to be so hard for EDG to contest, and thus Ornalt is perfectly hitting 3 targets.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something where for T1 that they're kind of banking on right now. You know, their bot lane's kind of fine, just chilling in the bot side. They are falling behind on CS, but it seems like that Herald is Scout. This is getting spicy in mid lane.
Needs to be careful. Doesn't have the TP, so Scout's winning out on these trades really hard. He's popping the potion right now, but Scout will slow stack this. The more he can spot out Faker, the more he'll decide on what to do with this wave. The longer Faker shows, the slower he'll push this wave. When Faker doesn't show, he will push it in as quick as possible. Faker dings over to level 6, and with this pressure mid and pressure bot, EG setting up for this dragon.
It makes a lot of sense. Have the Kalista have this early game power. We talked about passing over this kind of baton from the Kalista to the Azir in the mid game. Things going smoothly so far for EDG, despite the advantages that Zeus is building on the top side, not able to amount to much objective control. First dragon for EDG, and Scout just keeping the pressure up mid.
And for the side of T1, right, Faker going to need to go for a base right now, but getting closer to that 8-minute mark where they finally can try and play for some semblance of an objective. The thing I'm interested in seeing is if EDG want to commit their bot lane up to top side, since they have been able to keep a push and should have that tempo to where they can try and force that numbers advantage and, again, kind of prevent T1 from finding an advantage where they should.
And we say that often when it comes to tank versus carry matchup, where Ornn or Sion, the tank is struggling against the carry, so the best thing to do is with your winning bot lane from draft, push your bot lane into the Fiora, push her in, and the Ornn will be safe under tower farming. And the Ornn is just innately harder to dive than the Fiora, right? So what'll happen there is T1 will have to swap around and match, and you'll see EDG just keep swapping their bot lane top and bot on every wave to keep the mismatch. We'll see if they do that when the Herald spawns in a minute from now, but Zeus just still constantly ignoring Flandre here, looking for plates with this demolish off cooldown, keeping the top push so that Owner has somewhere to play towards. He can get this top grab you can see on the minimap, whereas on the bot side, he really struggles to find any contest up against JJ with Scout and Viper having this constant mid and bot push.
It's a struggle for Flandre. Just a big cannon minion with a lot of wave clear in this one. Can't kill him, but can just walk up and take those plates. Faker now moving down to the bottom side. This is big, especially as highlighted previously. 30 seconds away now from the Herald. Level 6s are going to start to tick over. This is where Owner really going to start to come online with this Lee Sin kick. Maybe looking to keep the pressure up on the top side. He's now coming in for a lane gank.
Yeah, and I actually really like the way that T1 played this window. Have Faker lean down towards the bot. If you can find something at this time window, it lets Gumayushi and Keria push in, so then they actually can preemptively maybe start to hover up, set up Owner to go for this Herald, which it looks like he wants to do with the pressure that Zeus is able to keep up by himself. But look at JJ and Scout. They don't want to let this happen.
And look at Viper and Mako. They're already basing to sprint towards this top side. I think they know that the 3v3 top side is a bit of a 50-50. They're not sure if they'll win it. They have mid push, yes, but T1 has top push. So Mako and Viper going to take a base here and should be here first. We'll see what happens here because JJ might just start it up with Scout being around and his bot lane being on the way. But EDG don't have information on T1's bot lane. We're actually not going to move up here and contest it. So we could see a trade-off here where EDG just get a free Herald. And what will happen here is Viper will move bot when he sees Gumayushi, and he'll stay mid until just in case he tries to contest.
Of course, T1 know that this is happening as they do have a ward in the pit. The sweeper from JJ was not able to spot that one out. Scuttlecrab as well, so have the information, but seems like they do not have the strength here going into this skirmish against the level 6 Kalista. Surely a death sentence, so they will back off. They will concede this, but sadly for them, not really able to trade it back for anything meaningful.
I will say, though, I mean, look at the bottom half of the jungle. T1, Owner, and Keria aggressively invading. So, I mean, Viper and Mako are going to have to be so careful. They actually might walk into a bit of a trap.
Uh-oh. Owner lurking in the shadows. The sweeper will spot him out, but
how strong those Lee Sin buffs going to be? Well, not strong enough to go for the 100-0, that's for sure. Will be forced to walk away. Happy with the blue buff, at least.
So EDG lose roughly a wave, but T1 don't get a plate for it. So the Herald should pay back that deficit that Viper just lost, and I wouldn't be surprised to see JJ put that Herald either bot or mid, where most of the pressure is. But again, constant isolation, 30 CS lead right now for Zeus. Flandre will get a couple of these creeps on the tower, but just ignoring the Ornn, looking for plates, demolish procs, take good bases when the waves are pushed in. And as long as he knows JJ's bot side, this is just going to be a bit of a horror for Flandre, right? There's not much he can do in response.
And it feels like for T1, that's what you're going to have to bank on, because I also wouldn't be surprised to see EDG just end up saving this Herald for when Dragon's going to spawn in a minute, 20 seconds, and try and get to that condition where they're stacking up Dragons, they're forcing T1 to fight them maybe a bit sooner than they would want to.
And that's exactly what we talk about when we talk about teams that have these big ways to force fights, is stacking these strikes so you can bring them to you, so you can stop that split pusher from just trying to end the game on a silence. I think it's so incredibly difficult to do. So Zeus right now, having a great time, a wonderful time. 30 CS lead, he's taking plates left and right. He basically doesn't have a lane opponent right now because of how weak the Ornn is into the Fiora. But as we get later and later into the game, his job becomes much more complex than just dominating a 1v1.
So here's the Herald mid, more gold over to Scout. You can see the gold lead now, 500-600 gold in his favor with those extra plates in the CS lead. And I think EDG have figured out the only way T1 can crack this game open is through mid. Scout is their most vulnerable player. So as long as Viper and Mako keep bot push and they keep some vision around mid for Scout, then there's no real action for Owner to look for. Tops in isolation, they lose 3v3 bots, so it's just about holding on right now for T1, giving up these early Drakes. 20 seconds on the spawn though. Gumayushi could get this wave in, level 7. Owner's hovering around and JJ's on his camps.
Ulti coming out, final chapter. Not gonna find the third stack on a Mako that's massive. They're not able to snare a single target, so just using the ultimate, getting a bit of pressure, but nothing else.
Small window. Now the question is, does T1 look for the Dragon themselves? Yes, you got Viper's flash, so Owner can make a play on him if they do decide to walk up. But Scout and Faker contesting mid waves right now to see who can get into River first. The bot lane of EDG, alongside their jungler, will start to walk up, clear out some of this vision. We could have a fight on our hands here.
Viper standing back. Has to be careful here. Faker now looking for the collapse. Scout coming down as well. Kali ulti up and available. Owner fishing for the kick. And advantage. Viper now stepping forward. JJ now going in, looking to lock down Gumayushi, but the flash stops it. Ulti comes out as well, but not really connecting on anybody from Mako. Mako now being pulled back. Ignite now taking Faker, looking to finish up some kills. Faker looking to find Mako, getting pushed back. Scout keeping him alive. The objective, can they take it? That's one for the side of T1. But the stacks are there. Faker now, triple Faker. Everything on him. Guma still standing strong. The flash forward. The absolute confidence. He gets one. Can he get two? Faker now standing forward. They can't finish Guma. It's massive for the side of T1. The Dragon's still standing. Scout now walking away. TP now coming in. Fjord just returning to the top lane. It is a mess on the bottom side. Scout still in the area, but T1 will finally take the Cloud Drake.
And we see T1 playing for those outplays, playing that game of inches. Exactly what you said, Cadril. Faker going in so aggressively, able to put the pressure there, and Guma's flash to follow up is beautiful.
Great skill expression there from T1, but I will say that both the engages were a bit scuffed there from both sides. Owner looking for a kick flash onto the support, I think it was. We'll have to see the replay. And then Scout and JJ just diving onto a Sivir who just spell shielded the Violed. From that point onwards, there's a lot of back and forth because both front lines had dived onto each other's back lines, and it was kind of like 2v2 split. Zeus getting that tower down, now 3 plates in his favor. So we'll look at this again. So JJ says, I'm going to flash ult Guma here, so Guma spell shields. And then Owner, what does Owner do here? He looks for the kick flash onto Mako, but he gets pulled away as he flashes forward. So both engages are a bit scuffed, but from this point onwards, we see the skill expression from the mobility of T1. EDG trying their best to try to play as a team, play as a death wall, and look for front to backs, but T1 just don't give it to them.
Yeah, I mean, again, Faker with that E just able to get right in the middle of them. So many of EG's defensive tools were already used trying to find the aggressive play, and it gives that window for Guma to go in, find the kill, and the fact that Keria on the Yuumi is such an annoyance. You know you aren't going to be able to finish off those low health bars.
And very big for the side of T1, not just because of the 1k gold advantage that they've built, but they're slowing down the Dragon stacking from the side of the EG, finding these advantages. Yep. Zeus didn't TP to that fight. He TP'd back top to keep pressing advantage here. Now he's got the Divine Sunder as well. It's only getting easier for him.
That top lane plate is on 1 HP, I think, so he's going to pick that one up in the next 30 seconds, you have to imagine. But now it's a window where T1 bot lane can start to contest. They've been pushed in all game long, but now Gumayushi has Kraken Slayer. Viper doesn't have his Mythic yet. Faker's got a kill as well, so that negates the gold deficit he had from the plate. So the 3v3 slightly in their favor. Guma no flash though, so needs to be really careful of Vi just queuing over this wall. Kalista ulting in the Renata to get the initial spell shield.
Oh, Zeus also doing so much work.
The engage. Just trading ultimates, really. JJ now taking so much damage. Scout off to the side as well, trying his own way. Faker, Owner on the way in. On the hunt has been used. Filing projectile connects on JJ. They cannot let that hit the Vi. Will dash out just in time as the tower falls topside. T1 are getting everything that they want across the map.
They really are, and you have to question what JJ's doing there. He just ulted into a Sivir spell shield again and got nothing. Sivir just ulted away, spell shielded the ult, and just kind of ran. And now it's Owner and Keria on the aggressive, looking for the enemy blue buff. Scouts around, but JJ has no ult. And it looks like bases are coming in for the EDG bot lane. So now this side of the map that T1 was losing, they're now winning both sides.
Yeah, exactly. I actually love the way that T1's playing this, and it feels like you look at EDG's comp, right? Again, there's a ton of scaling. You have an Ornn, you have an Azir, but I don't know how they're going to get Viper going when Faker now is putting up so much pressure in the mid lane. He can just constantly lean down. You see them weaving in, getting the vision, not allowing the push to come through. And it goes back to something that we were hitting on earlier, that it still leaves Zeus and Flandre in that 1v1, which is exactly what T1 want to go on as long as possible.
And you can see it's almost a 2,000 gold lead there for Zeus in this isolated 1v1 just purely from the plates. And now the Herald spawn, TP coming in from Scout. Could have a 5v5 around this Herald. Does T1 want to opt into a 5v5? Their Sivir has no summons, Faker's lacking summoners. Zeus is a bit split. JJ will find him, but the dash away will keep him safe. T1 posturing, poising, looking to contest this in the top side river. EDG going back to mid-wave.
Backing away, tense exchange there. Neither's not going to burn any major cooldowns, just walking away from each other. Now trying to get mid-wave control. Big thing here for the Sivir is she kind of weathered the early game storm of the Kalista. Much better wave clear at this stage of the game. Viper not able to finish a Runaan's yet, so pretty slow overall in taking that mid-wave.
Yeah, no Mythic for Faker, no Mythic for Viper. Two crucial items for both of these carries. Deus,
Rocket Belt just picked up.
Rocket Belt just picked up. Faker coming out of base. T1 need to slow this down, wait for Faker to arrive. Gumayushi's a bit split, but Deus has a lot of confidence here.
Hard forcing, are they willing to commit for the 50-50? It's a big risk.
What?
Just walks in and takes it. It's so casual. Now Viper's in trouble. Viper's been locked down. They've got the Orn up, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Instantly Owner to the backside, looking, fishing for a kick. He will not find it. EDG running for their lives, getting cut down. The Yuumi empowering the carries. Faker with the double. EDG falling apart as T1 take the Herald. They take the fight. Vondra's running for the hill. Scout desperate to get something back, but just knocking him right back into his teammate. What are you doing? T1 monsters in the exchange.
And the Herald comes out, that Owner stole. He's going to get the mid-tier one. Is Faker going to take that Eon to Scout? No, he is not. Are they going to look for a tier 2 as well? The T1 meat grinder, this Yuumi paying dividends for these mobility carries.
It's so great, and getting to see Faker be the one taking advantage of what Keria has to offer. The most decorated player in League of Legends history, popping off again against the most recent world champions.
It's so hard for EDG to find this fight because the amount of angles that T1 are coming from. Zeus was stepping up there in a kind of like a 1v5 when his mid lane's in base, his AD carry's trying to reposition. How the hell does Owner get that Herald when they have so many Kalista Ren stacks in there? Zeus just runs forward with the Yuumi on his back. That's their engage. W's forwards on the Renato to get a stun onto the Orn, and then Owner looks for the initial kill. Viper doesn't die here because of the bailout, so it looks good for EDG, but then Faker arrives.
Yeah, Faker gets right in their faces. Beautiful second hit of the ultimate deal to guarantee that kill on the Renata. And the fact that he was able to keep going is what blew my mind. But again, having Carry on top of him, supplementing with the heals, and Scout tries to knock him back, but kind of ends up giving Flandre his life.
JJ looking to steal this one back from Owner. Can he get it?
Time to see if he can get it the 50-50. Are they going to push? He gets kicked out of the pit. They want to finish it. And Owner, this man doesn't miss. He pulls it back over the wall. Where's the follow? They take down the jungler. JJ going to back away now. Zeus so strong in the 1v1, leaving him isolated. One more stack. He's trying to finish it. He leaves back over the wall. The bailout, not bailing in.
Here comes Faker.
The day, baby. Mako taken down. T1 see their window of opportunity. They take it. They take the drink. They take another fight. There's nothing left on the map for EDG. This is a slaughter.
One small overstep and T1 punish all of them, running down the members of EDG, and they're in the perfect position. You can see Zeus pushing in body's going to pick up that turret. Gumayushi in mid. T1 just having a fantastic position on the map.
100% kill participation on Faker, Gumayushi, and Carrier right now. It's the mid and bot lane that we were unsure if they could step up because of their lane matchups, but they are performing in these river fights. Faker is taking over every second that he arrives, and we're going to take a look at this one again because JJ tries to look for the contest, the kick back so Owner can secure it, but the Vial to follow through.
Yeah, JJ wanting to go in, but I mean, sure, they find the kill, but Zeus is so strong right now. The Vitals come up, and he's just able to pretty much take him down single-handedly. But once Faker gets here, it's over.
It really is. I mean, he has such a good angle here. He can go on absolutely anyone. He can go over the wall into Scout. He can go into Viper. Luckily for Viper, he dodges out on that Shuriken. Faker would have taken it back. And there was a lot of question marks around T1 coming into this tournament. Getting 3-0'd by Gen G, going to 5 games against Damwon. How strong is this team? But they're happy, they're smiling, and they're in form. The meta is good for them, and we're seeing a lot of playmaking coming out of their top side.
Again, and just even to go back to the bot side, it's so crazy that we were saying, hey, the meta might be better for Guma, and then go back to exactly what was the staple all summer long, and they're making it work against who, coming in, a lot of people thought was the best bot lane in the world.
An impressive showing for T1, no doubt, and it's so difficult now for EDG. You do not get to quietly scale in this game anymore. Faker Zeus getting onto your back line. Odessa, as you can see them grouping up as 5. They know if they pull back. Owner now fishing for the kick. That's going to be the hostile takeover. How much is it going to do? Ornal going in, but it's not hitting nearly as many targets as they need to. JJ now going to get taken down. Zeus finding the reset, finding the healing circle. Mako now going to get taken down. The bailout, again, is going to be useless. Faker fishing for Viper. He's going to take him down. Flandra. Oh, it's just like the laning phase, but this time so much worse. T1 and Faker dominating.
It's the solo lane. Faker might be in trouble though. He's going to get taken down by Scout. A little bit of revenge there for EDG. A consolation prize despite losing 4 members. Scout standing tall, but they're going to lose this bot tier 1. It's Zeus and Faker just running through EDG right now.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter that EDG do have all these AoE tools to be able to take a fight. Again, they're falling behind. They're losing control of the map. T1 are able to come from so many different angles, and they're just making it work.
How are you going to hit an Ornal on all of the necessary targets?
Yeah.
Akali is so mobile. Zeus with the Ghost, he can walk around it. Sivir with the ult. At this point, now that they're behind, it's so incredibly hard to play the fights as we see here.
And it looks so good because Owner goes in, gets knocked up straight away from the Vyq and then dies. So it's a 4v5 from the get-go. But like you said, the Ornald goes wide. Karia's on top of Zeus. Faker's pushing Viper out and Gumayushi's free hitting. So eventually, with the fight being so split in a front-to-back comp with Ornn and Azir, they just dominate you with their mobility. Zeus just diving Flantre right now. And as much as we talk about the top side of T1, I want to give a huge shout out to Carrier on this Yuumi, right? He's also on 100% kill participation right now. He's a full AP Yuumi with the Ludens, 10 stacks on the Dark Seal. This Yuumi does a lot of damage.
I do not expect any team to let Yuumi through against T1 again. Like, you just cannot let this happen. We were like, hey, carry on playmaking support's going to be so huge at Worlds, but still able to make this work as well. And now, I mean, EDG are just in such a hole. For T1, I think just looking to play out through sides, you can already see both top and bot wave pushed in, try and get some semblance of control on top side jungle so they can start making play for the Baron.
Collapsing onto Zeus. 4 members here trying to take down the top laner of T1. Surely he falls. Knocked down, shut down for EDG. Baron up, TP coming out. EDG
oh, wow.
Instantly pull the trigger. They know this is their window of opportunity. They may concede mid for it, but they have to get it done. But Owner, already 2 smites this game. He has been clean. He has been undeniable in these objectives. Will he find another?
EDG have the Ren. They have the Kalista. They're stacking them up. It's a 4v5 for T1. Faker is alive. Gumayushi, Owner, and Carrier. Can they do it?
Should be impossible. They managed to make it work. It's so close in the exchange, but EDG will take the Baron. Faker onto the backside trying to finish off Scout. Faker, can he get it done? He goes in. He takes down Scout. That's going to be 1. Owner waiting over the wall. T1. Guma now running. They're split. They've been knocked down. They might just be knocked out. TP coming in from Faker for the triple for Guma.
The 4v5, they pulled it off. Faker got incredibly low at the start and they didn't manage to get the steal, but EDG were like fish in a barrel in that Baron pit.
T1 once again just have the number of their old rivals, completely stomping EDG.
Are they gonna look for the end here? 10 seconds on Scout. We're 22 minutes into the game. This is the world champions. T1 are on to the Nexus Towers.
T1 tearing through the Nexus. Eyes on the prize, give them no quarter, take everything from EDG. Viper making out, fighting back, they're looking to get it done.
Oh my God!
This will fall. 22-minute victory. T1 unleashed on the international stage.
What is this T1 team? The second they got a lead, they just didn't let it go. And my God, their team fighting with this composition was almost flawless.
They have silenced all the doubters already on day 1 here at World's group stage. Incredible performance from absolutely everyone. Doubts around Gumayushi, picks the Sivir, does his job fantastically. Carry as Yuumi, the mobility of the top side. EDG, despite having this good, well-rounded scaling comp, just had absolutely no answers to the skirmishes and the aggression from T1.
Second fastest game of the tournament. And Zeus is a promise realized. We knew he could dominate Flandra if he was set up to do so. He absolutely did. Left on that island, he built an incredible individual advantage. The rest of the team, you've weathered the storm now. Gumayushi and Carrier against Viper. That's it. That's the storm, bro. It only more to show here from T1. Incredible, incredible performance.
Again, just so huge to see. I mean, right, we will get to see them play again, so we did all their chance for revenge, but just the way they did it. Teams of this caliber, though, once they find leads like the way T1 did, they just don't let it go. And I mean, heck, again, right, it's been so long since T1 have been able to like pick up a trophy, pick up a championship. If coming back now, having the meta shift go in their favor, Faker saying it, he's back in an A. Last time he was in an A, what did he do?